What's up, you guys? Welcome back again to your Heroclix headquarters. So I finally got around to watching the Craven movie, so I thought now would be a good enough time to talk about the top 5 Cravens in Heroclix. So without further ado, let's get to the list. Starting us off at number 5, I have the newest Craven from Smash and Destroy. He starts with a trait that says when a character with Craven in their name is KO'd after resolutions, modify Craven's combat values by +1 until the end of your next turn. If that character has a Sons of Craven trait, also remove an action token from Craven. So there's another version of Craven in this set, number 8A, and that is the Sons of Craven. So if you play him with a bunch of those, they're kind of like generic Craven clones. As they get KO'd, you can remove tokens from him and up his stats for a little while. So that's pretty nice. Otherwise, he kind of just has a pretty generic dial. He's a little too many points, I think. He's pretty high costed. But 125 points, you got Hypersonic with a 12 attack, Blades, 18 toughness, and 3 damage, range combat expert. So he's deadly up close or at range with 4 range double target. And then for 60, you just got some stealth, Blades, toughness, and perplex. So yeah, I mean, even though this guy's a common, he's not too crazy for like this day and age being such a new figure. Honestly, the main reason this guy even makes the list is because there's just not enough other good Cravens. And this guy's new enough that he's still not that bad, but I feel like he's not great by today's standards either. Really just the kind of thing you might play in Pulp or for Sealed for fun. Definitely not as good as some other Cravens we've gotten that we'll get to later, but it'd still be fun to play. Of course, you have the Sinister Syndicate team ability to share that 12 if you're playing him at the full point value. But yeah, like I said, nothing too crazy. So for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, I have the super rare Craven from the Superior Foes of Spider-Man set. So this guy's got a lot going on. His first trait says that once per turn, when another friendly character damages an opposing character, you can choose one, modify one of his combat values, except damage by +1 until your next turn, or heal him a click. So it's nice once per turn whenever another one of your friendly characters gets some damage in, you can either +1 his stats or heal him depending on what you need at the time. And then he's got another trait to give him a power action and place a hunted token on an opposing character's card, removing it from anywhere else. And when an opposing character with the hunted token moves, due to being given an action, after actions resolve, you may move Craven up to 8 squares, and he must break away if adjacent to an opposing character. And if the opposing character has the Spider-Man family keyword, he automatically breaks away when doing so. So it's a pretty long trait, but ultimately it just lets you take a power action to put a hunted token on someone, and whenever they move, he gets to move 8 squares, which is actually pretty nuts, especially, you know, by today's standards, when maps are 16 by 16, he literally gets to move half the map for free. So pretty much turn 1, you just put this on somebody you think is going to move, and you just kind of wait for them to make a move, and you just run him up there. But then he's got a special attack power that gives him Blades, Claws, Fangs, and he can use either Flurry or Giant Reach 3, but only if his target has a hunted token. So you also want to be putting that hunted token on somebody that is a big threat that you're going to want to take down, because being able to use Giant Reach 3 on them, or more likely use Flurry on them, would be very useful. And then looking at his dial here, you just got Charge, 11 attack, 17 combat reflexes, 3 damage with some Battle Fury. So of course, starting with Battle Fury, he can't be carried, but who cares if he's going to be able to move every time the hunted character moves. So yeah, pretty decent dial. You do have some stealth and regen at the end there. Of course, Sinister Syndicate TA, so he could be lending out his 11 or copying a 12 or something from somebody else. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. You know, you put the hunted token on whoever you really think is a big threat that's actually going to move, and then whenever they move, you get to move up on them with Blades and Battle Fury. So he's pretty deadly. I wish he had some Precision Strike maybe in there also to deal with, you know, Spider-Man super senses. But regardless, you know, I love the sculpt on this one. His dial holds up pretty well even today. So for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have the Craven the Hunter from the Beyond Amazing set. This one has a rally die trait. So if you don't know, his is red. So whenever an opposing character rolls an attack roll, and anytime they roll a 6, you can put a die with a 6 on his card. And then you have free remove one of Craven the Hunter's rally dice to give a prey token to an opposing character. Kind of similar vibe there to what we just saw with the hunted token for the other Craven. But this one has another trait that when Craven the Hunter makes an attack targeting one or more characters with prey tokens, modify his attack and damage +1, and hit characters gain immobile until your next turn. So again, he just gets bonuses if he's attacking a character with a prey token. But this one's only 50 points. You've got improved movement for elevation, 3 range, 11 attack blades, 18 combat reflexes, 3 damage with some outwit. And then on a special move power, he has charge and stealth, and he has flurry, but only to target an opposing character with 1 or more action tokens. I think the keyword there is action tokens. It's not prey tokens, so it doesn't actually require him to put those prey tokens on to get the flurry, which I think is really great. They just have to have an action token, so they have to have been given an action, or maybe you incapped them or something. But yeah, he gets to charge flurry blades on somebody. He can outwit them. You know, you got the stealth there with the combat reflexes as well. The improved movement for elevation is great. And if he is attacking somebody with a prey token, he does get +1 attack and damage. So he's honestly just doing so much for 50 points. He kind of just feels like a spiritual successor to the number 4. So all in all, just another really awesome version of Craven. And for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 3. All right, coming in at number 2, I have the Chase Craven from the Spider-Verse set. So he starts with a trait that when a friendly character is KO'd after resolutions, you can generate a grave-hindering terrain marker in the square that character last occupied. So I like that they've kept going with this whole grave-hindering terrain marker thing over this past year or so, that they've started to include it, because it makes so much sense for characters like this Craven. It's very thematic, and so yeah, you just get to place some grave markers whenever friendlies are KO'd. And then he has another trait that when Craven is KO'd after resolutions, you may generate a character with the Sinister Syndicate keyword from your KO area into a square with any grave terrain marker on their last non-KO click. Then roll a d6 and heal them half the result. And this game, that character has, if this character would be KO'd, instead remove them from the game without scoring them protected pulse wave. So you get a whole extra life out of any of your Sinister Syndicate characters. It could be himself, because, you know, he is a character with the Sinister Syndicate keyword, and he will be in your KO area at that time, so he could bring himself back if you want to, or any of your other Sinister Syndicate characters. Coming in at 75 or 50 points, he's got a really solid dial either way, with a 12 attack precision strike, 18 super senses, 3 damage outwit, or 11 attack precision strike, 17 combat reflexes, and still with the outwit. And taking a look at that special move power, it gives him charge and stealth. And when Craven uses charge, he doesn't half speed, and chooses one or both to use exploit weakness and +1 damage, or flurry and +1 attack. And if Craven chooses both, he can only attack characters with the Spider-Man team ability. So we won't get to choose both of those very often, but you know, the exploit weakness and +1 damage is great against those characters with, you know, invuln. They're especially impervious. Otherwise, flurry and attack +1 is probably what I would go with, like 9 times out of 10. But yeah, great options either way. And, you know, being able to revive somebody whenever he's KO'd, and, you know, potentially playing him with other characters that make use of the grave terrain could be useful as well. And yeah, I think he's great at both point values. He does a lot for the team. He's a very solid attacker with that full move charge and everything. So a great version of the character. And for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 2. All right, as always, before we get to my number 1 pick, I've got a few honorable mentions to go through real quick. I want to start off with the Craven from Smash and Destroy, number 8A. I mentioned him earlier when I talked about the number 5. This is the one with the Sons of Craven trait. So he's 45 points, pretty generic dial there, just some charge, 10 attack, 18 toughness, 3 damage outwit. So nothing too crazy with his stats or powers. He's got that Sons of Craven trait that says at the beginning of the game, for all friendly characters with this trait, choose a keyword. When Craven KOs an opposing character with the chosen keyword, score 10 victory points. So that is nice. You know, scoring an extra 10 points is always going to be good. But personally, I'm just not really a fan of the dial. It's just a little too boring. He does at least have the Sinister Syndicate team ability, so he could easily borrow a 12 from, you know, a different Craven or something. But I would have liked to have seen some blades or precision strike or something up front to give him an attack power. Maybe he was a little bit lower on points, so you could squeeze more on the team with the bigger one, since that one is so many points. You know, that would be nice too. But regardless, he's okay, so he's an honorable mention. And then last but not least here, we have the rare Craven from the amazing Spider-Man set. I love this Craven. It was the first one I ever had. I actually played him quite a bit back in the day. Coming in at 95 points, though, he is a little too high-costed for today's game. But he's got this trait that at the beginning of the game, choose an opposing character. Craven the Hunter modifies his attack value by +1 when targeting that character with an attack. When the chosen character is KO'd by Craven the Hunter's attack, modify his combat values by +1 and choose a standard power that character possessed on any click. He can use that power for the rest of the game. So it was really fun to pick a character and just hunt them down with Craven and, get the +1 to all combat values and pick any power they had, which just made him that much more deadly throughout the game. And the special move power gave him leap, climb, and stealth. So, some charge would have been nice. But then on a special defense power, he also has combat reflexes, super senses, and toughness, which is pretty much the best defense power we've ever had on any Craven. So that's great. Even though his stats are a little bit lower, his defenses are still pretty good because of that. And yeah, he's just got a great sculpt, and he was really, really fun to use. Also, the whole jungle potions thing makes me have nightmares because I remember the Game Boy Advance Spider-Man movie game where there was a Craven boss. Even though he wasn't in the movie, he was in the game, and he was absolutely impossible to kill because every time you got him close, he would just drink a potion and be totally fine. I'm like, how do you beat this guy? He's got infinite potions, I swear. So I never beat him. I never beat him in the Game Boy Advance game. If you guys ever played that game, go ahead and like the video. Let me know in the comments. Did you guys ever beat Craven? Let me know, because I thought he was impossible. Besides that, there are a couple of rev sets of Craven. Nothing crazy, though. I do want to actually give a dishonorable mention real quick to probably the worst Prime figure ever in the game right now, which is the Prime Craven from the Superior Foes of Spider-Man set. 75 points. All he does is has a trait that once per game, if he would be KO'd by pushing damage, instead turn him to click number 1. Well, guess what? Pushing damage doesn't exist anymore. So his trait is totally useless. His dial is very meh for the points. So this zombie Craven Prime or whatever is probably the worst Prime ever. And I don't know, WizKids, maybe legacy card him and give him some justice or something. I don't know. He's horrible. He wasn't really good back then, especially for being a super rare Prime, and now he's just totally useless. So that is unfortunate. But regardless, that is pretty much all the Cravens in Heroclix except for my number 1. So without further ado, let's check him out. Coming in at number 1, I have the new Prime Craven from the Spider-Verse set. Not only did this set give us an amazing Chase Craven, it also gave us an even better Prime Craven. So I guess this one kind of redeems the old Prime Craven from Superior Foes, because this one is actually good. So this one starts with a trait that whenever Craven hits, after resolutions, generate a grave-hindering terrain marker in a hit character's square. So I like this one better for making grave terrain, because whenever he hits, he generates it in their square. You don't have to kind of wait for them to KO one of your characters. He actually plays very well with the other one, since you're making so many more grave markers. But anyway, then it continues to say that opposing characters occupying grave terrain markers have a maximum range of 0 and must break away to move. So every time he hits somebody and puts them in a grave marker, he shuts off all their range and they have to break away. So he's basically shutting them down completely unless they can roll that breakaway, or if they're willing to, devote somebody else's action to TKing them off of it or destroying the grave marker or whatever. But it really just slows down your opponent's whole strategy and can really lock down some characters. But yeah, he's got some improved movement for elevation and characters, so that's pretty much the best improved movement of any Craven so far. 10 movement charge, 11 attack precision strike, 4 damage with outwit, and 18 defense with a special defense power, which is combat reflexes and super senses, so that's great. But you also have another trait. Here that is sidestep and stealth. And Craven can use the standard powers that opposing characters occupying any grave markers can use. And when Craven KOs an opposing character, after resolutions, deal 1 unavoidable damage to each opposing character occupying any grave marker. So that's great. Basically, with this guy, you want to run up there, hit somebody, put a grave marker under them, and then use your improved movement characters to ignore them, leave them alone. You've got all the standard powers they can use, and you want to go run and try to KO somebody else, so then they start taking an unavoidable damage while they're stuck in that grave marker. So yeah, I think this guy just gets exponentially better if you play him with some other characters that can generate some grave markers, because he would be able to use every power that any opposing character on a grave marker could use. So who knows what he could eventually be doing. He could have like every power in the pack after a while. So I think that's amazing. And just being able to kind of lock people down that are in grave markers is also super good. And, you know, he's got a pretty long dial there. You could easily get regen or steal energy off of somebody else and heal him up if he, you know, starts taking some damage. He's pretty reasonable, 65 points. And he just feels like he does a lot, especially since he already has a lot of powers. Combat reflexes and super senses on defense, sidestep and stealth traded, charge, precision, outwit on dial. So he's already got a lot of powers anyway. And yeah, I just like him a lot. I think he's super deadly, and it's just an absolute blast to play. So for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 1. All right, you guys, that about does it for this top 5 list. As always, let me know your favorite Craven in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button because it does help me out a lot, and click that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. If you'd like to help support the channel even more, check the links in the description for the Patreon so you can see your name here in the credits with all these other awesome people. And as little as $1 a month gets you entered in my monthly giveaways, so make sure to check that out if that interests you. But that's going to do it for this one, you guys. Thanks again so much for watching. Until next time, this has been Heroclix Headquarters, signing off.